All right, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to do an alternator replacement on a 2011 Toyota Rav4. Shouldn't be nothing too crazy. Customer complaint, battery light is on. We only got a battery charge of 12 volts, so which is not enough to be charging the battery properly. On that sense, the battery voltage charge should be anywhere from 13.1 to about 14.9, and then you'll be ideal. So anything within there, you're fine. Anything below or above that, not good. All right, so if you haven't already, give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future. And we're gonna go ahead and start this video right after the intro. All right, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna take off the negative, or we're gonna loosen up the negative terminal and then remove it too as well. So that is gonna be a 10 millimeter. Lefty loosey on that. Now when touching this, make sure that the positive and negative terminal do not touch in that sense. All we need to go ahead and do is just take off the negative terminal and we are fine from there. Now just gonna go ahead and tuck down the negative terminal down below so it doesn't make contact in this point. If you need to, you can put a cap on or put a rag over here so that your negative terminal doesn't by accidentally make contact while you're working on the vehicle. All right, so we're going to be removing our belt, or we're going to be releasing the belt tension to remove our serpentine belt. So right here we have our actual belt tensioner bolt bracket. Now you are going to be using a 14 millimeter on that. Let's see if I can get that zoomed in. I'll get that to focus. So this is the little bolt that needs to come off. Sorry about my light. Let's see if I can switch up the lighting angle. All right, that should be better. So we're gonna go to remove this, and you're gonna go clockwise on the actual tensioner. You can use a wrench or a ratchet. I would recommend using a flex one. So once you get that loosened up, we're gonna go ahead and remove the belt itself. So I'd recommend removing it off a smooth pulley. Just to get more slack. It'll be easier if you removed it off the water pump pulley. And then once you remove it off the water pump pulley, then you'll be fine. Now, my tool is stuck. That's no biggie. Just be careful with your oil pressure sensor, but I would love to use it. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna walk it off, and then my tensioner is gonna snap back just a little bit. So we got that. Then right here we have a 10 millimeter bolt. We're gonna go ahead and remove that for the little bracket. This is the size length of that bolt. I'm gonna try to show as much as I can. Now our bracket's a lot more looser, and that'll give us a little bit of slack with the wire harness. Then we're gonna pop off this cap. That is the positive terminal protector for the alternator. Now these guys can be on there pretty tight. And what you can do is you can either get a flathead or a pick just to lift up. And once you lift that up, we'll be able to pull this back. Now this is another 10 millimeter. Here's the nut for that. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and remove our positive terminal off the alternator. There we have it. It's not gonna be hot, so I'm not really worried about it. Now, right here, we have on the right side of the connector, there's a little tab that you're gonna push in. Just kind of squeeze with your finger and then pull it back. So I just used my index and my thumb just to squeeze this piece, and then on the right side, the way how it's going to be is just like that. You squeeze down and then push towards the alternator and then pull right back so you can release the slack, because sometimes the nipple on the actual alternator will actually get stuck onto the actual tab. So we don't want that. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and release our little tab that's on the actual alternator. Let's get this kind of out of the way. So right here, you have this little locking tab. You can either use your fingernail or you can get a pick or a flathead, and then you pull right back, and then that'll give us a little bit more room. And then the other thing is too, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this sensor. I believe this is the oil pressure switch. I just want to remove this so I don't break the cable. Make sure that you saw where I took that out from. I took this out from right here, and then there's a little tab. I can't tell you the angle, but this was on the bottom, just because of when you torque it down, the angle might change. So some cars might be different. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and remove the alternator itself. We're gonna loosen up the bolts. So we should have, I think it should be 114, well, 214s. So we'll start off with the top one. So first we're gonna go ahead and loosen up this 14 millimeter that's on the alternator. And then we're gonna go counterclockwise on that. Here's the bolt, that length. I wanna say it's about 4 inches long. Yeah, right around there. All right, so coming up on the bottom alternator, so right over here, it's gonna be hard to kind of focus, but the camera. So make sure you don't get it confused, but it's a 14 millimeter. I'm gonna get that zoomed in. Let's get that to focus. Right there. Just follow the casing on the bottom, but it's that top one right above the little bracket. That's right there. So that's the one that we want to take off. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and loosen that up. So this is the bolt that we took off right here. So just keep in mind, it's a little bit hard to show because the camera's in the way. So now you're gonna go ahead and move the whole harness out the way. We might need to take off this little bracket right here. So we'll probably do that. And then that's a 12 mil. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove this little bracket that's right here. This is gonna have a 10 millimeter bolt. Not the nut, just the bolt. All right, so once we loosen that, so this is the setup, the one that we took out. All right, so now the alternator should be easy to come out. Now I'm gonna go ahead and remove the dipstick just so we don't break it while removing the actual alternator. So I'm gonna put my hand underneath the alternator. Now, sometimes these guys are gonna be stuck on there. This one's actually pretty easy to remove. You can actually get a flathead or a pry bar and pry it in between right here. So maybe I might be able to get it out. Let me just go ahead and pry it from up there. So we'll pry it right here, and then you're just gonna wiggle back and forth. There we have it. Now that we have the alternator out, we should be able to sneak it up on top. And then there we have it. So nothing too crazy. It's a pretty simple job. This will definitely save you a few $100s by doing this yourself. So the new alternator that we're gonna go ahead and put in, make sure you take off your 10 millimeter. Make sure it wasn't installed previously. And if it was installed previously, make sure you get it tested. And I always say get them tested at least 5 times. Out of 5 times, if they pass, then they're good. If it failed 1 time out of those 5 times, you need to get another alternator. As versus this is our locking pin. You need to make sure that this is not pushed down. If it was pushed down, then we have a issue. This should be flush. So someone's already tried to install it or it got banged during shipping. So what you can do is you can thread in the top bolt just enough, and then you can hammer on the bolt with the socket on it. And I'll kind of show you what I mean. So you would basically thread on this bolt onto this, try to get as much as possible, and then just leave a little distance. Then from there, you'd get your socket, because you don't want to damage the threads on the actual bolt. You would get your socket, and then you would hit with the hammer, at least a 2-pound hammer or 3-pound hammer, if you're going to be using a used alternator, just so you can open up this little pin right here. Just as a little heads up. Alright, so let's go ahead and install everything. We're going to reverse the order. So let's put that back. If you wanted to, now would be a great time to replace your serpentine belt. So just as a heads up. So what I want to go ahead and do, I want to start up at the top. So we're going to put our bolt up on the top. And you're going to hand thread it first. Alright, so now that we got that hand tightened, we're going to go start on the bottom now. So pretty much we're just going to get our bolt from the bottom, and then I'm going to feel for it. So the camera's kind of in the way. And if anything, you can use your left hand and just kind of use, I'm going to pick it up where the 10 mil goes, where the positive cable. And then what I want to do is just I kind of want to wiggle it up and down. Once you get at least 4 complete rotations on the thread with it going smooth, it might be a little bit tight, kind of like semi-rough. As long as you can do it in with your fingers, you're fine. But also move around the alternator as well too. So just in case. So I'm gonna start off with the top one, and then we'll go with the bottom one. And then I'll get you the torque specs for the bolts. Alright, so the 14 millimeters, you're going to be torquing them down to 38 foot-pounds, just as a heads up. So let's go ahead and start swinging over all of our stuff on the actual harness. So first thing I would probably do, connect, let's put this bracket on first. Alright, so we'll go ahead and thread in the back bracket. This should be bolted down to probably around 5 foot-pounds. If that. Now there's a little notch that's actually on the bracket that's right here. That needs to just kind of like sit on the cylinder head. So then we're going to go ahead and put our bolt back that's on the actual alternator. And then that one is going to be torqued down to like 5 foot-pounds too. They say 7, but I think 7's too much. So I would say 5 is ideal. Alright, so when putting in the alternator cable line, you need to make sure that the cable actually gets inserted into the notches. Because if they're not, and when you're tightening it down, you're going to destroy the connector. And then that should be torqued down to 5 foot-pounds. Then you're going to bring over your cover protector and then just push it down till it clips. Try pulling back, see if it comes off. Then we're going to go ahead and put on our little connector. I might leave this one off last. Let's put on our oil pressure little sender unit, and then make sure that this ground cable is clipped on. Alright, now let's go ahead and put on the belt. Alright, so after done tightening this, don't forget to connect in your connector. And then voila, there we have it. Just this piece, it should just clip in, pull back, and we're good to go. Alright, so here is the belt diagram. So just so you have an idea, just go ahead and pause it. So we have the AC compressor, the crankshaft, the belt tensioner, and then the water pump, and then the generator. So just as a heads up, that's why I left the belt just like the way how it was. So we didn't have to just do too much, but all I have to do is just grab the belt and swing it right over. But at least you have that as a little tip. All right, so now let's go ahead and put on the belt. Now I'm going to try to show this to the best of my abilities just because of the amount of space that we got. So before releasing the tension, I'm pulling on the belt and making sure there's no actual pressure. So now I'm going to wrap it around. Oh, whoops, grabbing the wrong side. So while I'm having it over as I'm having the tension release over the alternator, I'm actually pulling the belt back at the same time so I can get a little bit more slack. And I'm holding the pulley with my thumb too, as I'm trying to get going on the actual. Once you get the belt over a little bit on the actual pulley, then you'll be fine. So I was just pulling back the belt, and at the same time I was using my thumb to keep the alternator pulley from spinning back. And that's pretty much it. You're gonna go ahead and recheck your work. And yeah, that's pretty much it from there. Go ahead and put back on our oil dipstick. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and put on our negative terminal. It might spark a little bit. Just keep in mind, make sure it's fully down. You might need to kind of tap it down a little bit, and then we're gonna go ahead and tie it in. I always say tighten down to it's snug so that the negative terminal doesn't spin. And then we're gonna go pretty much on the inside, start it, and then voila. And then our battery light, well, if it starts and stalls, it's perfectly normal. But if the battery light's still on, you need to check, see if the new alternator they got is defective. So we're good to go on this. You are gonna need to do the idle relearn procedure. So the way how you're gonna do the idle relearn procedure is you're gonna let the car warm up until the fan kicks on, and you just let it idle till the fan kicks on without the AC or accessories on. Have the door closed. Once after the fans turn off, you're gonna pull the emergency brake on, and then you're gonna put the car in drive, and then you're just gonna let go of the regular brake, and then you're gonna let the car idle for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then from there, yeah, that's pretty much it. This video helped you out, thumbs up, comment down below if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future, and thanks for watching.